All right, guys. It is Thursday evening at 7 p.m. I am the Texas Garden Guy. We are live on Facebook, and this is the Garden Party. Me, 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 me. This is the Garden Party, and we want a garden party with you. We talk about the plants we oh my goodness. We talk about the plants we grow and some things you might not know. The Garden Party. I have not tuned my guitar since the first time I played that live.
Who
Vikram, go
needs a
ahead and
tuned
introduce
guitar?
yourself.
I am Vikram Baliga. I'm the plant prof up in Lubbock, USA, right in the middle of nowhere up here in the panhandle of Texas. So I yell about bananas and stuff on the internet. That's pretty much what I do.
And he harasses Josh Peck for the way
I
he eats
do.
his burritos.
I do. You know what's funny though is like TikTok kept flagging those videos for unoriginal content, and I was like, it's a stitch. Like I'm stitching a video,
Right.
and it's like I don't know.
They're very pro Drake and Josh, is what it is.
I think so.
Well, Phil will join us momentarily. He is, I think he's got technical difficulties, but we have our first time guest, someone who's been trying to get on the garden party for a long time now, the powerful Skip Richter from GardenLine.
Powerful.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Skip.
Well, that's news to me. First of all, thank you for that.
It's a it's a Joe Rogan thing.
Okay. I'm Skip. I retired from AgriLife Extension as a horticulturist after 35 years, and I lived to tell about it. And now I'm just a horticulture person. Still horticulture, no longer AgriLife Extension agent.
I only made it 4 years. 35 is impressive.
Yeah. But it was a good 4 years, Vikram.
It was a good 4 years.
We'll get into how y'all know each other, but what do you do now, Skip?
I do a radio show. I do a show up in Bryan College Station still. I'm sort of holding that spot for the next agent to come along on public radio. And then the big show is GardenLine down in Houston on Saturday and Sunday mornings from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Yes.
Wow.
We are on a long time, and it starts early.
It's that coffee drinking hours.
That's it, man. Gardeners don't mess around.
Well, I don't know if it's me getting older or getting more into gardening, but I'm sleeping in less and less on the weekends. Is that a good thing? I mean, I hear a lot of people saying that you should be sleeping more, but I feel more productive when I sleep less. I don't know, or maybe it's quality of sleep.
Do you go to bed early?
No.
Okay. Well, that's a tough combo. I think as Benjamin Franklin said, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
There you go.
So there's that.
So you're going to be like Jay. You're going to be spreading some words of wisdom today. Every time I talk to Jay, I learn like a new phrase or something. I love that. Do you go to bed early most nights?
No, not really. Medium.
Yeah.
Kind of medium.
Yeah. Well, Vikram, you got a house full of kids, right?
I just have the one.
Okay.
But he and my wife are not early to bed people. He kind of has to be because he has school, right? I tend to fall asleep on the couch about 9:30, and then get woken up at some point to go to bed.
Yeah. I feel like I fall asleep on the couch most nights. Last night it was watching was the Tell All special, The Bachelor or whatever. I get stuck watching that. If y'all have any gardening questions, we are live on Facebook. Drop your questions down below. We will answer any questions you have. I know right now you do this every weekend. You answer garden questions. What's like the number one question you get this time of year? It's got to be tomatoes and turf, right? There's 3 T's. What is the other T?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the 3 T's. We used to say at the extension office, this is true of radio too, the 3 T's that make the phone ring are trees, turf, and tomatoes.
Trees, turf.
The order should be turf, trees, and tomatoes because turf is like the elephant in the room.
I'm not a big turf guy. I love the trees, I love the tomatoes, but I'm not a big fan of the turf. But I need to move that way. I need to get more involved in the turf. It's hard for me to be on the pro turf side when it doesn't make anything I can eat. That's my thing.
Well, people are all over the place on turf. Some, if there is a weed in the lawn, it has to die. Napalm flyover, get in here, let's take it out. But Other people are just like, do you know Felder Rushing? Do you guys know who that is? He's a
Yes.
Mississippi horticulturist. He's
Mm-hmm.
hilarious. He says, weeds are green, turf is green. If you want to get rid of every weed in your lawn, just take off your glasses and you have a weed-free lawn. It's nice and beautiful and green. So I think that's pretty good.
But that's really true. I get messages asking about like grass, and I immediately tell them, "Hey, I'm not a grass guy. I'm a garden guy. I don't think of like I don't know. I need to expand my knowledge and get into the turf side. But when people send me pictures and their grasses are totally lush and green, and they say, "Hey, I've got all these weeds," and I'll say, "After last year, if it's green, leave it
Just
alone.
mow
Like
it. It's
just
fine.
mow it."
No,
Yeah, yeah,
That's so. I'm kind of sandwiched in between. My house is sandwiched in between like two people that spend a lot of time on their lawn.
are they stripers?
Oh yeah, well, so one of my neighbors has tall fescue, and absolutely, it is green all year. And he does have a couple of big oak trees, so it is in quite a bit of shade. It's on the east side of his house, so it's not as bad. And the other guy has, excuse me, mostly Bermuda, a little bit of buffalo grass mixed in. I just have whatever comes up. It's most like it's Bermuda-ish, but there's some buffalo grass, and currently there's some henbit and dandelions and assorted some rye coming up. And a lot of times I'll let those go to flower and seed because I don't care that much. And I water it even up here in West Texas about once every other week, and I'll water it heavily and let it gray out a little bit. And Bermuda grass is tough. Buffalo grass is even tougher.
Mhm.
And mow it pretty high. And they haven't verbally complained yet.
Yeah,
They have. I see the looks, but I also don't care that much. I figure by
There
that
you go.
by the time I get home, I'm just like, eh.
yeah.
I'm done.
Well, I always tell people if you don't work weekends and you're like physically capable, you should be mowing your own lawn. I it always drives me nuts. Like I've got relatives and they're guys that have the weekend off and they got plenty of free time. I was like, you should be mowing your own lawn. I think it's a point of pride, and I enjoy like the gratification of like I don't have the best lawn, but it's edged, it's weed eated, and it's at a certain height. It's not striped or anything. So I may be mowing my clover, but at least it looks nice. You know, so I'm a big believer. You should be mowing your own lawn. So, but yeah, I was laughing because you were talking about your native grasses and your Bermuda and stuff like that. My dad had a pipeline go through his property, and they came through and they dug it up and put a bunch of pipe and stuff down. And they said whenever they were done, they were going to put down native grasses over where they dug up and everything. Well, my dad's got 100 acres of cattle and everything in this giant strip. They planted it. The next spring, it was all thistle,
Oh,
Whoa.
which is technically a native grass.
no, it's a native something.
Yes, yes. So and I was surprised because David's Garden Seeds actually sells thistle. You can buy. I bought some thistle seed, and I'm scared to do anything with it. I'm scared to put anything down because I know that stuff can spread really, really easily, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but
And it's
yeah,
pretty
Oh
if
well.
you like pointy things,
well,
you know.
it seems like the bees love it. Like the bees love
Oh
to
yeah.
sit on top of it and get around and lay around and everything. And so, I mean, I would like to plant it, but I'm scared it's going to spread to everything.
Yeah.
Well, it's good for a lot of our native bee species too. You'll see a lot of sweat bees and orchard bees and some other ones that, and usually the flowers are big enough that they don't necessarily get run off by the honeybees. There's
Yeah.
enough real estate there that I tend to see like a mix of a lot of different things. Another thing that's in that same family that's an interesting landscape plant that can be aggressive is artichoke or cardoon.
It's a thistle, really.
It's like a massive thistle,
Really?
but
I
they're really
never,
pretty.
I never knew that. That's pretty cool. No, I, I, I always laugh whenever people talk about bees and stuff like that, and they always assume that bees are just like honeybees. They don't know a lot about like our native bees. Like most bees are like solitary bees, and they don't have a giant hive where they make honey. Somebody was telling me that bumblebees actually make honey. You can get bumblebee honey if you like dig it up.
Hmm.
I don't know if people do it or not, but like they were saying, you can dig up a bumblebee, because I guess they burrow in the ground, and you can actually get bumblebee honey. I have no interest in doing it, but
Yeah.
I'm told you can.
It's not much honey.
Really?
No, not a lot. No,
Is it
not
like
like honeybee.
is it like concentrated though? Is it like super sweet?
I don't know. I have no idea about that.
We're gonna have to get an
I
ear
just know
pierced on.
it'd be really hard to get. It's all, yeah, you'd have to filter it a lot. So lots of bee parts in there.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
they
you're
live in
pretty.
really small colonies. So,
Oh, really?
like, I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe like 50 to 100 individuals a lot of times in a bumblebee colony. So they're not solitary, but they're not like a honeybee hive with tens of thousands of individuals.
Right. Well, it's like we were at Enchanted Forest, me and Jay White, and someone had put a video up about Peggy Martin roses, and they were calling them thornless roses, and I was like, man, Peggy Martins aren't thornless, and it's like, well, they're Jay was explaining, he goes, well, they're not thornless, they call them thornless because they're less thorny. It's like a solitary bee. A solitary bee isn't like actually a solitary bee; it's just more solitary than other bees. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Skip, when do you think we're going to get our last frost? I'm ready to put my tomatoes in the ground. I'm so nervous to put my tomatoes in the ground.
Yeah, first of all, talking around in Houston market, I've got people in Galveston, I've got people in Huntsville, and
Yeah.
so when's the last frost? It's kind of like, well, it depends.
Okay.
I don't like to say when the exact last frost is, but it's going to be in February. We're past it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
For most of the folks down that way. One year, I got interviewed by a newspaper. This is decades ago, and they asked me about frosting. I said, well, the last average frost is on our name today, because that was the last average frost. And they printed, county agent says the last frost this year will be on this day. And it was like, I spent 2 weeks trying to talk my way out of it. I did not say that. I did not say that. And it frosted on that day and it didn't frost again that year. And if I'd have kept my stupid mouth shut, I would have been like Mr. Crystal Ball.
Yep. No,
that's pretty amazing.
That is pretty amazing.
That's crazy. Well, it's funny that our meetup is this Saturday because our last frost date last year was March 18th. It froze the morning of our meetup last year. That was the last frost, was March 18th. It froze at Jorge's that morning. And so I've been so nervous. I've had FOMO to see everybody planting their tomatoes, and I've got enough to like where if we did have a frost, or I guess people don't realize also that like it doesn't have to freeze to like mess up your tomatoes. It can get down like in the 40s and stuff and dwarf your tomatoes as well. And so I don't want to have to dig a bunch up. I have plenty of extras. I'm not going to run out.
Yeah.
But I think here in about a week I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to take my greenhouse top off. I'm scared though. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm very, very scared. I just don't want to have to do a bunch of extra work. But I've been telling people they've been planting their tomatoes. Go ahead if you are going to plan on buying backups. Like, or if you just never know with tomatoes.
No.
At all.
Cover them up.
Yeah, that's true.
Cover them up.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty gun shy up here in Lubbock because we our average last freeze is about April 10th.
Is it really?
It's been so warm. Like I think we got a light frost I think on March 2nd maybe, and then like our lows have been like in the 40s since then. And looking at the 10-day forecast, we're supposed to stay about right there. And so, like, I'm getting real itchy to start planting stuff, and I just can't trust it. I've been here too long and seen too many like late April freezes to be really comfortable with that.
I got people that are talking about their citrus plants are already getting pollinated by I had bees banging up against the side. They could smell the blooms on my citrus. They were banging up against the greenhouse walls trying to get in, and I had to go out there and open the door. The wind has been so bad, I thought it was going to rip my door off my greenhouse. But the bees have been wanting my citrus. Let's see. I'm just north of Tyler. I'm ready to take my tropicals out of the greenhouse. Someone said in Conroe, I went rogue and planted my tomatoes in Conroe. Is Conroe still 9A or is that 9B?
Probably B.
Still 9B.
Probably B.
The growing zone thing really kind of the new changes kind of mess me up when it comes to all this stuff. So yeah, it's a little confusing. So Well, Vikram, what do y'all have any new projects or anything going on in the greenhouse over Texas Tech? I know you got a new position, right?
Yeah. Earlier or last year, I did. I think I told you about this Lost Apples of Texas project
Oh,
we've been
people have been
working on.
asking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying some grafting. We've got budwood coming. Well, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, and we've got a bunch of students that are in a some kind of ecology class. I don't remember what the title of the class is. Who are going to come help us do some of the grafting work. And I actually just I was talking to my greenhouse manager today, and we just got our root stocks in today. So he's potting those up. We'll give them a couple of. They'll have about a month to root in before we start grafting to them. And we're trying. We've got two root stocks. We're trying. We're going to go with M111, which in apples is kind of like it's a semi dwarf. You're going to get a 11, 18-foot tall tree out of that, but it's a really common apple rootstock. And then I ordered another one, and I can't right now remember what the name is, but it's a true dwarfing rootstock. So we're trying to do some maybe even like containerized apples, like large like patio apples in a
Yeah.
5 to 7 foot tree. So we're just playing around a little bit. We're gonna the guy who gets us our material usually sends us like a lot of budwood. So we're just gonna kind of go nuts this year and graft to our rootstocks, graft to some landscape apples, some trees that are in the garden, in a couple of different yards, and sort of hedge our bets as best we can.
What is the rootstock for an apple? Like I know, like with citrus, it's like that Asian what is it called, trifoliate or whatever. What is it, like a native apple or something?
So a lot of times there'll be like a native crab apple or something, which is actually our only native, I believe, malus in North America. I could be wrong about that, but it's one of very few native maluses in North America, which is the genus, sorry, of apples and pears and stuff. Um, so a lot of them are crab apples, but a lot of the like numbered varieties, like M111, they've been bred to be rootstocks. So bred for disease resistance, bred for drought tolerance or size or whatever. And so, a lot of them are wild apples. I believe that some rootstock breeding work came from like Macintosh apples, and some older varieties that are a little bit wilder. Um,
Okay.
so we're just interested to see. Like we've had so little luck with this project so far. This is year 4, 3. We've been doing it a minute, trying to get it, and we had one graft that took, or a few grafts that took, and they all died in an ice storm. Like we got ice and it
Yeah.
broke all of our grafts. And so we're hoping this year to keep some stuff in the greenhouse. Again, we're trying to get the Pride of Texas, and I think we've got like 6 or 7 other old apple varieties that we're trying to restart. So we'll see what happens. It's a fun project, even just to
That's
mess around with.
that's fun. I want to get into more into grafting, and I know there's like certain people through like the ag extension that they'll like recommend, like they'll do grafting, like help you out, or like they do grafting services. Speaking of the county, the ag extensions, we got Kimberly Mayer from the Brazoria County Ag Extension. I'll be at the Master Gardener Talk tomorrow at 10 a.m. talking to Brazoria County people. But Kimberly has been awesome. I met her through, I think I met her through Kevin, through Mr. Dr. Ong. I met her. He introduced me, and she's been super cool. Have you been getting a lot of calls? Because I've been recommending like apples and pomegranates and pears and peaches like that. Have you been getting a lot of calls of people asking about like their citrus? Like they've been seeing growth below the graft line. They left their citrus out. Have you been getting calls yet?
I have had some, and I've seen some. Uh, that happens a lot of years because we have people that are like up in College Station that are trying to grow citrus, and that's a stretch. So
Yeah.
we do get killed back. Yeah,
Unless you get the Vigo rolling containers where you can roll them in your garage.
that's it. Then
That's
problem solved.
that's my number one solution. I say get a rolling
Yeah.
bed, grow them in
Hmm.
smaller containers, or start growing pomegranates. Because my pomegranates are doing amazing right now. They're
Hmm.
doing so well. I've got a Texas pink and I've got a Parfianca. They're doing amazing. And some people have been recommend. My dad got into them. My dad has got like a pecan orchard out at his land, and he's been getting into pomegranates like crazy because he was tired of replacing his citrus every year. And so pomegranates are like super easy to propagate too, and they grow really fast. And so it's definitely a new trial and error thing I'm trying out. I didn't get any fruit last year. I'm hoping to get some this year. Let's see. I have 3 wonderful pomegranates grown from propagations 3 years old. Nice, Jolene. That's awesome. I think we may have lost Phil.
He's
altogether. He's gone. Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. He said, "Oh, this is what tripod broke for phone. Just now on top of a laptop working." He's having all kinds of issues tonight.
Yeah, Phil's having a day. It's okay.
He's having a day.
We can talk about figs next week.
Yeah. Oh, this might be the only episode we don't talk about figs, unless you want to, Skip. Unless you want to talk about some figs for a little bit.
I'm good. I think y'all got that covered.
Oh my goodness.
I like figs. But...
Yeah, I mean they're another good option, like for people who are tired of messing with citrus. They're tired of messing with the citrus and everything, but they're not as good as like a blood orange or like a navel orange. Nothing's citrus is really really nice. So I mean, but a fig's good too. I was gonna ask Vikram. I was talking to Skip before the podcast. We got on a little early so we could check if we had any technical difficulties. I was talking to him about some of your reaction videos to people using bananas and toothpaste and stuff. And I'm not sure if Skip is familiar. And the reason I bring this up is because I have gotten messages within the past week about the new scientific advancements in electroculture. Now, so Kevin defended electroculture. Kevin defended
kind of.
Dr. Ong?
Yes. He didn't poo poo on it.
Let me qualify that. Just because I see the look on your face, Skip.
He lives about 5 blocks away. I'm about to go run down the street.
He gave the typical research scientist answer.
Yes.
Of it doesn't make sense that it works. However, I don't know how thoroughly it's been tested. Right? So I'm not going to say he defended. I'm going to speak for Kevin here.
Dr. Kevin Ong, noted electroculture specialist. That's going to get clipped and he's going to be so upset with me.
Yeah, he gave the quintessential, like, I've done research for this long answer of, well, we could there's still room to test it, and he was being nice.
Yes.
Kevin.
Well, Kevin's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
But he says that he's not. He says like, I'm so grumpy and old, and like he's like the nicest guy ever. Like, I don't get it. I don't know where he gets that from. But yes, so I think I sent the screenshot, and I don't ever want to like discourage people from trying new things. But I think people have seen me talk about electroculture enough to know now. I think they're messing with me. I think they're trolling me, trying to get me like fired up about it. Because this guy sent me a picture of like 2 beds right next to each other. They both have bamboo sticks with copper rods going. One of them has a copper rod going in the ground with bamboo, and on one on each end, and the other one right next to it has no copper rod and bamboo. And one plant was alive and one plant was dead. And so that's the definitive proof the electroculture works. I'm like, dude,
it's a closed case.
It's closed case. Like,
it's a closed case.
There's so many factors that plays in with that. It's just it's so crazy. It's so wild. But I mean, you see a lot of crazy stuff. You pursue crazy things on the internet, Vikram, looking for new methods. Go ahead, Skip.
No, I just go ahead, Vikram. I'm just shaking my head.
Yeah. No, I don't know why I have decided that this is the thing I should spend my time doing, is debunking ridiculous. Well, I get sent a lot of stuff, right? And
mostly from me.
Yeah, mostly from Destin these days. But like the stuff that gets me, there's sort of 2 categories in my mind. There's the stuff that's like obviously ridiculous. Like obviously just outlandish, and for the most part nobody believes it. Like they get a chuckle out of it, and okay. But then there's like the plausible nonsense that looks just believable enough that people will try it and kill their plants.
Yeah.
And like that's the area that I'm like, okay, like this can actually do some harm. Like I think misinformation's always bad, but there's some misinformation that's so far out there. Like I don't know. There's
The toothpaste one is probably the most preposterous. Like I don't know that toothpaste has any place in the garden. What do you think? What do you think, Vikram?
I shouldn't ask this, but what's the toothpaste one?
So okay, so there are these videos that have started popping up where they'll get you're not gonna like this, Skip, where they take like a Roma tomato, or they've been doing some different stuff, but the ones I see the most, they get like a tomato or an orange, and they'll like rub toothpaste like where the stem connection is, and stick it in some dirt and like put a little greenhouse over it, and then they pull it out and there's roots coming out of the bottom of like a whole tomato and a little plant coming out of the top where they obviously just stuck in roots in a tomato. And then you read the comments and people are like, oh, what a great idea, I'm going to try this in my garden. Like,
and they're getting better with CGI too. They're getting better with CGI, where some of it looks like some Avatar level stuff, like back in 2007 or 2010, whenever it came out. Like their stuff is getting better.
Yeah, they're evolving.
I would love to see Skip's reaction, like to some of this stuff. Like I go, like while he's watching it for the first time. I would love to see it.
Some of it's.
Are you about to play something?
No. I don't know. No. I'll do that separately. I'll do that offline. But yeah, it's some of the stuff is pretty wild, and it's all coming out of like Russia or like Turkmenistan or something like that. It's always like some off the beaten path place where these videos are coming from. But yeah, Vikram's made a career on it.
Yeah, or something. But, you know, Skip, I'm sure you've seen this too over the years, like being county agent, working in extension, like even the not so ridiculous stuff. There's so many like wives' tales and folk, like, you know, remedies for the garden and things like that. Can you think of like what one of the wilder ones you've heard is over the years? I'm sure there's a bunch.
The powdered milk one threw me off. The powdered milk in the bottom of the hole of the tomatoes, like that one, that was pretty wild.
Powdered milk and tomatoes?
Yeah. You dig the hole, put some powdered milk down there, and then plant your tomato because the calcium.
Well, what happens is people, they do something to one plant once, and if it works, then now it's on the internet and it's a fact and everybody knows it. I do a talk called Finding Research-Based Information Online, and I know that sounds real exciting to everybody, but one of the things I try to explain the fact that correlation doesn't mean causation. Like two things can occur at the same time, one didn't cause the other. And let me just show you, I can't show you the slides, but if you look at the number of letters in the Scripps National Spelling Bee each year, and you look at the number of people that are killed by venomous spiders, the lines are just, they track just like one caused the other. So we got to call the Scripps Bee and tell them, shorten the words, you're killing people. If you look at the number of people who drowned in a swimming pool and each year, and the number of movies Nicolas Cage releases, it just tracks just like that, just all together. There might
be something to that, though. There might be something to that.
Yeah, because that's funny. I got a whole bunch.
If they just watch the Nicolas Cage movie, then it might be some correlation there.
I mean, isn't it crazy? So, yeah, I don't even go into all the research and stuff, but yeah, a grain of salt. I test a lot of things that aren't replicated. You know, like this year I've got 2 or 3 different types of tomatoes, and I may have 1 or 2 or 3 of each one, and it's not proven anything, but at least I'm learning something. But,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like with research, you always have a standard. You always have like your standard, and then you have, or what do y'all call it when you're doing like an experiment? There's the steady,
control.
The control, yes, you have the control, and then you have the experiment. You know, so like, but when it comes to like plants and like your soil and like the mixture, you know, like you'd have to do so many. Like I did the meme or I posted giant coils with copper around them in the middle of this cornfield in Nebraska, and they were 20 foot tall. I was like, you think that if electroculture worked, there wouldn't be Tesla coils out in Iowa and Nebraska making the corn grow better? Like the people doing it for a living know what they're doing. When it comes to most things, they have the most advancements. So like if it was really growing stuff faster, I think it'd be done on a big scale for sure in
Yeah,
some form or another.
probably. Yeah, and we always learn stuff in research that we thought wasn't true, and then later we find out it is, and a reason why. So I guess I'm going Dr. Ong here a little bit, but we got to keep our minds open. It's just
It's true.
you can't plant one guy. Here was another one. I can't remember who this guy was. He clipped his toenails on the front porch, and he tossed them up into a rose bush. Is it a rose bush? No, it's a hydrangea bush, and that hydrangea just had blooms and blooms, and he wouldn't quit clipping his toenails and throwing them off the porch in that hydrangea bush because he was convinced that that did it.
Now let's dissect that. Is toenail all calcium? Like, is I mean,
There is no connection. I mean, it just
I was trying
he
to.
was he was fertilizing and watering his hydrangea. That's what happened.
Yeah. Well, it's it goes. It's a spectrum, really. It goes from one end to the other. Like people who use their coffee grounds in the garden. Like, is it going to acidify your soil for your blueberries? Probably
Mhm.
not. Most of the acid is
Mhm.
gone when you brew the coffee. But is it going to hurt? No, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I mean, I wouldn't plant my azalea or my blueberries like in 100% coffee grounds. I'm sure people have done experiments on that, but I mean,
Um,
I don't think it's hurting anything.
Something else. I just think we need to not take ourselves so seriously. And if
Agreed.
somebody wants to do something, it's their yard. There's
Yeah.
this color wheel that you're supposed to landscape by where you use
Mhm.
opposite colors or three corners of colors on the wheel. If you like red, plant everything that's red. And if you want to put what's not supposed to go with red, I don't know, with it, it's your yard. Have fun.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll give the neighbors something to talk about, and they already talk about you anyway. So, go for it.
Well, it's like Clint Eastwood says, "Stay off my lawn." Like get off my lawn. Just. Oh my
Whatever
goodness.
makes you happy. That's the
Uh,
fun of gardening.
I
Yeah.
got a question, or I got a comment here about you, Skip. Let's see. It says something about let's see. I love to hear Skip's reason for not putting gravel and other materials at the bottom of container planting. Does it really cause an elevated water table? Yeah, I'd love to hear about this.
So water moves from little spaces and it's pulled towards small spaces. And you can test this by putting a drop of water on your kitchen counter and taking the corner of a paper towel and touching that water. And where does the water go? Against gravity. It goes up the towel, right? So if you have a full pot full of soil, it's going to drip out when that soil becomes so saturated that gravity pulls it out. It's not held by the particles. So if you move that up and put gravel at the bottom or styrofoam peanuts or pot shard or whatever it is, you just lift that table up and it's still going to fill the soil until it literally drips out. But now you have less soil. And here in Texas with summers, it's already hard enough to keep a container well watered without making it two-thirds the soil that it would have had. So that's the fast answer.
Oh, okay. Well, so when I'm filling like my Vigo beds, if I'm filling a bed, I I guess it's called like the hugelkultur method, where you put like
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't I learned my lesson. I don't use big logs anymore because the soil will just find it'll just find its way, and it's just you're constantly refilling it.
Yeah.
So I use like pine bark chunks, and I'll fill a bed like halfway up and then top it just to save money. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you pay a couple $100 for a raised bed, and then you're gonna spend a couple $100 filling it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. That'd be a reason. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so so would that be okay? Like, is that or is this most or was your reasoning for like container gardening?
Well, I was answering it for containers because that's where people usually ask that. But if you want to do that in a bed, that's fine. Just make sure you don't end up with hardly any soil, for it
Right.
to grow in. One time I had those clay square things that line the chimney flue,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
terracotta pieces. They're like 3 or 4 feet tall or something. I had two beside my garage on one side and the other. Well, I don't want to fill that with soil. So I took those little water bottles, the little plastic water bottles, screwed the caps on them so they stayed full of air, threw a bunch in the bottom, put a little piece of hardware cloth, and then some fabric and then filled it with soil where it was only maybe a foot and a half of soil or something.
Oh,
So
okay.
but that wasn't to make it drain better.
Right. Right. Well,
It's
and
because I'm a tightwad.
well, yeah. Well, so we were at Jorge's place and we're filling a bunch of his beds, and we actually used sand to fill
Hmm.
up halfway, and he found his stuff was draining way too fast. Like
Oh, really?
he did almost a third to maybe a halfway up on a 17-inch
Hmm.
bed with sand, and his beds were draining really, really
Hmm.
fast.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it really, I guess it really does pay attention. It really does. It kind of matters how you fill up your raised bed. Paying more attention. I get a lot of questions of how I fill mine up, and I like to use I use like the hugelkultur when I'm filling it up. Originally, but if you have a raised bed, you're topping it off after every harvest. Because it's going to
Yeah.
sink. Gravity's going to draw that soil out.
Yeah.
And I like to use the lasagna method where I put a layer of cardboard down, I pull the labels and the stickers and everything off, and then I top it with soil. And I found that it helps with the weed retention, and it breaks down super fast. But I have
Yeah.
heard people saying not to put cardboard in their beds. Have you had any issues with that, or like is there anything wrong with putting cardboard in the raised beds?
I haven't had any problems with it
Yeah,
myself, but I know there's some issues people have about it, but it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah,
A
I
guy
haven't seen
named
any
Lee,
issues.
Lee Rice, it's Reich, wrote a book called Weedless Gardening, and he's a Cornell horticulture, or he was before he retired, and it's a good book on basically gardening like the forest floor, top down gardening. In nature in the forest, everything is built from the top down. Nobody
Hmm.
rototills or buries compost or anything other than the earthworms.
Well, that's how we do our raised beds at the horticulture gardens at Tech. Is we have the bottom, so they're 24-inch tall beds, not all of them, but most of them. So we have the top, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of it in a little bit more in topsoil. A topsoil mix we bought locally. It's like 75% regular topsoil, 25% compost. So that's how it comes. And then we take our used potting media from the greenhouse from classes and stuff and
Mm-hmm.
just top dress with it every year. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll
okay.
put 2 or 3, 4 inches on top, however much we have. Um, because again, like Skip's saying, if you think about a natural system, all the organic matter is on top, and then
Yep.
it gets incorporated by soil microbes and things, and earthworms and beetles and things like that. So we actually see a lot more. You get a good like mix of nutrients down through that soil. You don't disrupt your sort of soil. I don't want to call it a soil aggregate because it's already an artificial, but your soil structure stays better, so you hold water better,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And we've found really, really good success with that. Just top dressing with compost and like greenhouse potting media every year.
Yeah,
Um,
because it does oxidize away.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll lose a couple inches a year. It breaks down, and some of it floats when we get a big rainstorm or whatever, and that's fine. It is what it is.
It
Uh,
rains in Lubbock.
well, all at once. If you miss that day,
Oh,
it's real sad.
it's like
Yeah,
monsoon day.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We'll be dry for 10 weeks, and then we'll get 3 inches of rain.
Here's a question I got, and I guess we'll maybe all answer like what are. So I went to the Missouri County Master Gardener plant sale, and I highly encourage anybody who is in Texas or find out when your Master Gardener program does like their annual sales for their veggies and they do fruit tree sales, and they usually only carry the varieties that do really well in your area. So it's a good opportunity to get stuff that's going to work in your area. And this past weekend, I picked up some plants. I went on like a shopping spree for my birthday, and this past weekend, all they had was like pollinator plants. And so I was going big into like native pollinator plants, and I probably bought about 15 different ones in one. I went 1 gallon pots, 15 of them. And she's asking what my favorite plant was from this weekend, and I've been getting big into shrimp plants. I really
Hmm.
like shrimp plants. I had one last year, and it did really well. I thought it was going to be more heat tolerant, but I ended up moving it to like the shade, and it did really well
Hmm.
until it got like, and it really hit the heat of the summer. But I bought a variegated one this year, and I'm really excited for it.
Is it the white and green kind of splotchy leaves?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really pretty.
It's
Yeah,
really.
and then with the blooms, it's kind of like all colors.
Is it like a bougainvillea where it's got like the blooms, but then it's got the bracts that are colored? Because people always think of like bougainvillea. They think of the colored part is the flower, but that's actually just a bract, like a mutated leaf color. The actual flower is the little white
Right.
part.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the shrimp plant is the same. If those little
Yeah.
like shrimp things are like bracts.
Yes.
Yes.
The shrimp, the thing that looks like a shrimp is bracts.
I would love to do a whole video on bracts because bracts are so
Right.
interesting to me. Bracts are so cool.
Lots of good options for that.
Even bananas. Bananas have bracts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then poinsettias and all kinds of other things. Like you got a lot of good options.
Yeah, we could do a whole bract video. I'm gonna have to do them. I usually take notes and I never read them after the podcast, but I will this time. What are some of y'all's like favorite spring plants? I know up in Lubbock it's gonna be a little different. What is like your favorite like spring plant that you put like in your flower bed or you buy every single year? Skip.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well,
both y'all.
go. Let Vikram go ahead. What do you like up there?
So I tend to do a lot of, just because we are so dry up here, a lot of wildflowers I look for as native of a mix as I can. And so, as far as color in the garden, I'm very much like if it makes it, it makes it. If it doesn't, it wasn't supposed to be there. So I don't
selection.
I don't baby my plants very much. Just because it's so hot, I don't want to like spend a ton of water on it. There's certain things like I'll water my trees. Like I'm all about keeping my trees watered, but everything else. So some of my favorites that I go for every year, I do a lot of lamb's ear. Does really well here. It's Stachys byzantina, I believe. They may have reclassified that. I do Blackfoot daisy. I do a lot of zinnia in the garden.
Yep.
And dahlias actually do surprisingly well up here. We don't get a lot of repeat on them, but just growing them in season, they actually give us good color, long season color. They're pretty reliable.
And dahlias are bulbs, right? They're crowns.
Yeah, I usually buy them as crowns.
Okay.
Some varieties will reseed a little bit. For the most part, they're so hybridized they really don't. But they do. Like I was shocked, and people were like, "You can't grow dahlias there." I'm like, "Well, I am." So,
yeah.
Also, another thing that we do some up here is phlox. Phlox does pretty well, especially in a little bit of shade. And Turk's cap is another one.
PHLOX.
Yep.
Yeah, I tried to grow that from seed once. I love getting like the Baker Creek or like the David's Garden Seed website. You go there and you look at all this stuff, and I always get like some of the same things like zinnias. I get zinnias every single year. If you're a first time gardener, you want to plant flowers that will come back every single year. They basically reseed themselves as zinnias, and they make so many different cool varieties now of zinnias. It's so neat. Turk's cap is another one that I recommend to anybody looking for like a carefree like hibiscus. It's a native. It's so heat tolerant, and they come back every year if you put them in the ground.
And the fruits taste good.
If you can beat the birds to them,
yeah.
Yeah, I got a light pink one, and I didn't realize they make the jumbo Turk's caps. They're like 3 to 4 times as big a flower. It's huge. And I got a light pink one. I got a white. I thought I grabbed a white one at the plant sale, but I ended up buying rock rose instead, which is another.
It's a good one.
And it makes a smaller native hibiscus, so that's a good one too. I don't know how to grow that one. I tried last year and I killed one. I don't know how to grow them. So, what about you, Skip? Yeah. What do you like?
I like all the plants in the world. That's my problem. I would say for just like wow color, I like the bubblegum supertunias. And there's a new one now. Vikram, you may know it. I can't think of what the name of it is, but it's a proven winners. It's the latest, greatest. But I don't know how those plants live because they have so many flowers. I don't know how the leaves get sunlight. Literally, it's just solid color. But they trail over maybe a foot and a half or so they're good on the side of a container. But as far as my favorite plant, it's salvias. I'm going to have to pick a genus. Okay. If you're limiting me to one choice,
no, I give a genus.
Okay. So I just love salvias of all types. There's so many great ones, and they're tough.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, some that I grow probably in Lubbock, Vikram would freeze out. But I love them.
We do have pretty good luck with them here. The May night, pretty much wherever you put it, it's almost indestructible.
Yeah.
The blue the blue black usually won't repeat for us, but that's such a
Okay.
pretty one.
It is.
But the red Salvia Gregii is
Mm-hmm.
really good. And then we have a lot of luck with Salvia Farinaceae as well,
Okay.
the mealy blue sage.
Have you tried Mystic Spires up
Yes,
there?
and
I got some
it
this
does
week. That's
that
Did
one of
one.
you?
those.
Oh, that's a winner. Just don't be afraid to shear it. Shear it back.
That one's been a little bit
oh,
marginal for
the
us.
trim back.
It came back last year, but
Mm-hmm.
and it probably will again this year because we were so
Yeah.
mild this winter. But it's a
Yeah.
little marginal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I used to grow indigo spires, and this is a more compact form. I really like it. Yeah, salvias bloom on the terminals, the ends of shoots. So if you have 3 shoots and you shear it back, and now you have 6 to 8 or 9 shoots, you're going to have 6 to 8 or 9 blooms, and it's going to be a more compact plant. So I'll shear mine in May after the initial bloom, and I'll shear them again in August for a fall bloom.
Oh
Maybe a
wow.
fourth, cut it back by a fourth, maybe something like that. And then at the end of winter by about half.
My,
Yeah.
my my wife had to have the fuzzy pink salvia. It was like it looked like something from Dr. Seuss. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, we'll see how that goes. I mean, bees typically like fuzzy stuff. They like the fuzzy flowers, so you can't go wrong. When we did, there is one plant, and y'all probably know what I'm talking about. It looks like a pink pom pom, and if you buy it, it spreads to every single pot that you buy. And my dad gave us one as like a curse, like as a just a practical joke. Like he gave me one, didn't tell me how like invasive and crazy. This has been a couple of years ago. I had my nursery and floral license. I do not have that at my property anymore. But that was a fuzzy little pink flower that I had to throw like several pots of dirt of soil,
I'm
not
I'm
dirt.
gonna guess, and I don't know. It could be a couple of things. I'm gonna guess maybe a Gomfrina, a globe amaranth.
I think that's what it was.
That would be my first guess. There's a whole bunch of them,
Yeah,
um, but there are some other like frilly, like puffball little plants that probably do well down where y'all are that don't up here.
yeah.
Gomfrina does great here, and our winters are cold enough to knock it back well, and it will spread, but probably not like it does down there.
Oh yeah. Well, Skip, you said something really interesting, and I never really thought about those petunias, about how they have so many blooms that the leaf can't actually get any sunlight. Is that a thing? I've never thought about it like that before. So
They'll bloom themselves into a weakened state. And if you catch it early enough, you can shear them back, fertilize them, and get new growth. Because again, you got to have new growth to have blooms. But when I look at the plants, I'm just going, how did they get light? Because it literally is solid blooms on a supertunia.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just never thought about it like that. That if it's all blooms, it's not getting it's
Yeah.
it's just yeah. I never thought about it like that before.
Apparently, it finds a way. I don't know. Or maybe
So
it can't read. I found that true about a lot of plants. They can't read, and so they shouldn't be able to do something, or they should, but they can't read to know that. So
Hmm.
they just make me look stupid.
I totally agree with that. Like they don't study in class, they don't pay attention. So all the things that I'm like, this plant won't work here. They're like, I don't care. I'm gonna grow here. Yep, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I got a question in the chat, uh, and it's asking about Oyas. Are y'all believers in Oyas? I'm not a big Oya believer. Like I'm the dependability, like an Oya. What do y'all think about Oyas? Skip, go ahead first.
I'm ignorant of them. I've never
Oh,
grown one. I've see them a lot, but I've never grown one.
got you, Vikram. What do you think about? So I'm talking about the containers, the Oyas, the
Oh
O
yeah, that
L
you
L.
water
The,
with, right? Those like
yes,
the clay pots you put in the ground,
yes.
and then you. So I think I don't have a lot of experience with them. I
Yeah,
think it would depend so much on your soil type.
yeah,
Because we see them like indigenous peoples throughout the like American Southwest were the ones that kind of came up with this in dry, sandy, well-drained soils that can probably draw the water out. They have enough heat, enough dry down and water movement to draw the water out of that Oya into the soil around it. So it's a thing that can work. I think down where y'all are in your heavy clays, like you're never going to get any water out of them.
Yeah.
I think that your soil is too dense. I don't think it dries down fast enough, and you're not going to get that that, what am I trying to say? That gradient, that water gradient,
Right.
To pull it out of there. Now, maybe in a raised bed, it would have some value. Maybe in some different settings. So, like up here where I am, and I'm actually, now that you've said it, kind of interested just to play around and see if I can like try it. But so there's evidence that they do have benefit in certain conditions. I just think it's going to depend a ton on where you put it and how you use it.
So for anybody that doesn't know what an Oya is like a terracotta pot. A lot of time they're made like kind of round and they have a lid on top. And so you fill the it's buried in the ground near the plant's roots, and the terracotta is porous, so it allows for water to go in and out. So whenever you fill it with water, in theory, the roots are supposed to be able to take advantage of the water being permeable. And I've seen where people take the Oyas out of the ground and it's just roots all around it. It seems to be a trendy thing that's going on right now. I don't depend, like, it's the same way I don't depend on a sprinkler timer when it comes to my tomatoes is the same way I don't trust an Oya, because anything could go wrong. I don't know how you have to check it periodically. I don't trust anything but my own hands when it comes to watering my stuff. Uh, I'll turn the sprinkler on manually and make sure that it waters all my stuff. Or maybe use it as supplementally, But like I don't know. They made a homemade one out of 6-inch terracotta pots, so maybe for something it would work. But I wouldn't trust it in my raised beds to dependably water all my tomatoes and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
I think
they're
I think
expensive too.
they can be for sure. Again, especially because they're trendy, right? Because
Yeah,
they're Instagrammable right now. Like they end up being. I think it just depends a lot, and you have to have an understanding of how water moves through the soil. And in your soil type, is it going to move laterally or is it going to go straight down? Because your drainage, your soil composition, it's so complex and so complicated that you put it in a raised bed or a pot that has like soilless potting medium, and that stuff is made to drain, right? It's got big pieces. It holds some water, but it's made to drain. And so, yeah, you may draw water out of it, and the roots that are wrapped in it, like that wrap it, may get some benefit, but you're not going to get like a whole lot of lateral movement unless, I think, again, you have a very specific soil composition. So, it's one of those things that, like, if it works for you, and if you're in a place where it's beneficial, like, shoot, swing at it, like go for it. Uh, I think it would probably work for me much better here than it would for y'all down in the
yeah.
Houston area.
The only experience I have with them, I bought these terracotta spikes that you can put like an empty wine bottle in, but
Hmm.
and it would water it through, but it emptied them out so fast. Like it's already in a container, a pot that wants to drain fast, like you were saying. So I mean, I think Kimberly is setting me up with some questions here that might be like applicable to Skip. So she said, if turf grass takes up nutrients in a 3:1:2 ratio, do most plants take it up that way as well, or does it depend on the plant? It
I'll
sounds
let
like
the professor. I'll let the professor tackle that one.
that is a technical question, Kimberly.
Yeah, gosh, like, just put us on the spot. It's gonna depend. I think that's the safe science answer. Is it's gonna depend.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Kevin.
there you go.
Yeah. Well, so again, it's going to depend on your soil. What's in the soil? What is the plant easily able to pull? So I'm assuming when she says 3:1:2, she's talking about ratios of like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, your NPK ratio, right? Your tomatoes that feed heavily all season, it's probably even a higher ratio of nitrogen than that. Your native wildflowers, it's probably pretty balanced, depending on where you are. So it is going to vary a lot based on also how hard are you pushing that plant, right? Are you watering your lawn twice a week? Are you mowing it
Flushing
regularly?
those nutrients out faster.
Yeah, are you pushing growth? Because they're going to take a lot more nitrogen as they're actively growing than they will, when they're more just sort of staying put and maintaining. So there's a lot of variables there. So it depends is the right answer. It's not maybe a satisfying answer.
Yeah. I think in general, 3-1-2 is a pretty good ratio for a lot of things as far as what the plant takes up. But I always try to get people to have a soil test because if you don't know what's in your soil, 3-1-2 may be a very bad turf fertilizer. Like if you had really high phosphorus and really low, no, wait, how am I doing this? Anyway, it may be that you need the opposite because your soil doesn't have it.
Right.
But when you look at the grass blades, yes, 3-1-2, 4-1-2 is what's in a grass blade.
Yeah, I've actually never done a soil test ever, but I buy my soil bagged. Well, I don't plant anything. I don't plant anything in the ground. I get all my stuff and gets in bags. So if I was having issues, well, even with my body, I'm not going for annual checkups. I'm only going to the doctor if there's something wrong, Skip. But I when it comes to fertilizer, it's always I would follow the instructions and not go crazy with it because I made the analogy one time. It was like, whenever you go to like the vitamin store or GNC and you buy a bunch of like vitamins and you're taking like 6-7 pills, and is your body actually absorbing any of those vitamins, or are you just making really expensive urine? It's the same thing with fertilizer. I mean, it can only absorb what it can absorb. Your plants can only absorb what they can absorb. So yeah, very expensive urine. Absolutely.
That's funny.
Well, guys, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say Skip's reaction to that was because I'm pretty sure the first thing they teach us in new agent training is to tell people to get a soil test at AgriLife. Like, what?
Yeah.
No, but we talk about it a lot. Like, have you gotten a soil test? Go get a soil test.
Well, and it makes sense. But if you think about it, the soil is a bank account of nutrients. Can y'all hear me okay? I suddenly am hearing myself different.
No, you're so fine.
Okay. The soil is a bank account of nutrients. So there's like a lot of phosphorus and potassium and a medium amount of magnesium and sulfur and calcium. And then you get into things like manganese and selenium that are just tiny amounts. But if that bank account is balanced and full, the plant can draw whatever it needs when it needs it. And so a soil test tells you what's the bank account look like. And then you add to the bank account what might be needed. And that's why it makes sense. You don't have to do them all the time. I don't do them as often as they say we should do them, but it does help before you get into a big problem. GardenLine has been around since the 50s. And back in the day, triple 13 was a fertilizer that was recommended for everything. I mean,
wow.
From lawns to curing cradle cap on your children. It was a thank you. Thanks for laughing at that. But seriously, and it was just triple 13, 12, 24, 12. And we have lawns that the phosphorus is so high because it doesn't wash away that we're getting a lot of iron deficiency with the high pH soils that we already have. And so misfertilizing for decades does catch up to you, or it can.
Kimberly said, she goes, I've got a soil sample form in a bag ready for you at the extension office tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah, you need to make a video of you taking a soil test. That's good content.
Well, so, I mean, I get it. I mean, like, so much of my soil, like, people always ask me, like, if I've got a container, do I throw my soil away? I said, no, I don't throw soil away. Unless there's, like, something really nasty growing in it, I don't throw it away. I mean, I pour pots into beds and other pots, and I reuse stuff, but I refresh it with, like, other stuff. So, I mean, it's such a conglomerate of different materials. But I would have to get a soil test for every single bed. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be, like, just your one, you know what I mean?
Well, and we should clarify that a bed is a special media mix, really. It's not technically soil most of the time. And there's actually a separate test for growing media. Like if you're a greenhouse grower and you have all these pots full of potting soil, they test differently for that than you would for true soil. I'm thinking more like in the ground, because once you start adding compost year after year after year, I pretty much guarantee you got everything you need. just because. You think about that grass clipping. Okay, I'm getting nerdy here, and then I'll shut up.
No, you're
That
good.
grass clipping has a 3:1:2 ratio, but it also has zinc and selenium and manganese and copper and iron, because those are essential, and you can't grow a plant without all the essential nutrients. And so if you take that grass clipping and drop it back in your lawn, or put it in a compost pile, or put the compost in your garden, you're adding all the nutrients in a good ratio, really. And your soil is just getting better and better.
That's
okay. Last fun fact: your lawnmower puts out more fertilizer than your fertilizer spreader. If you took all the clippings for a whole summer of mowing and you total them up, dried them and weighed them, and sent them to the lab for analysis, you would find out you're putting more fertilizer out with your lawnmower.
Really?
Just don't bag your clippings.
Well, so that's a problem. That's a problem with my mower right now. It's electric, battery powered, and it only has a bag. So I take my clippings and when I empty out, and I just kind of spread them around. And
that's good.
Especially when I have like bare spots, I'll just every time I go through like a thick little clump like on top of there, and it works out. If y'all got you got like 10, 15 more minutes, are y'all good? You got like 15?
I don't even know how long we're supposed to be here.
Oh no!
I brought a little time.
I brought breakfast.
It's not a 4-hour block. Like it's not a 4-hour block. Are you good, Vikram? I don't know if you're.
Yeah, I've got a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't do like a regular compost set because I just don't have the space. For like the bins. I do have a roller, but I really like the Vigo in-bed composter. How do you feel about in-bed composting? Like, or do you have an opinion on like in-bed composting, like just feeding a bin into your bed like that?
I'm thinking.
Dun 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 dun.
I don't have an issue with it. I think you've got to think about, how close are you planting to it? I think you've got to think about what's coming out of that material as it's breaking down. Are you adding one of the benefits of composting outside of your garden beds is any stuff that's in there gets sort of taken apart in the process, right? A good finished compost is usually pretty clean. It's low on salts. It's low on a lot of things. And so you've got a safe product to put in. You may have, depending on what you're feeding your in-bed compost with, there could be a lot of stuff going in. I don't know that that's necessarily a huge problem.
Yeah.
But I think it potentially could be depending on what you're adding. So personally, I prefer to do my compost separate. But like if all you have the space for is an in-bed composter, and you just are thoughtful about how you plant around it, maybe you leave a little bit of space around it, so that can be worked into the soil. I don't see why it would be a problem. Skip, what do you think?
I think that's right. The old story from the Pilgrims where the Native Americans taught them to drop a fish in the hole and then plant a corn seed on it. I assume that's true. It's called compost pockets too. That's another thing. I think it's fine. I think having quality compost that's already finished, like Vikram said, and mixing it in is probably better, or putting it on top like nature does.
Right. Well, and my thought process, I'm not putting any kind of fats, anything like that, any meat. I'm doing like my coffee grounds, orange peels, and veggie cuttings and fruit cuttings. Nothing crazy. I don't recommend people put like meat and fats and stuff like that in their compost. Well, we've talked about that before with like people saying they put dog poop in compost. Like, don't do that. I don't recommend you do that. So I just put like my orange peels, my coffee grounds like that, and I put them in there. And every time I open it up and mix it up, I see worms and ants and this is something I got to ask about this because this has been a hot topic question that I probably had a dozen this year already asking about roly-polies. I have a ton of roly-polies in my garden, and everybody in the Houston area seems to be getting more roly-polies in their garden. I have not had any negative issues with roly-polies. More than anything, they seem like they are little dinosaurs and they break down materials in the soil. But I guess some people have issues with them eating like the roots of their plants or the base. I've heard, but it may be misdiagnosed though. I mean, it may be misidentification. They just see the roly poly, they think it's doing the eating, but it's something else.
I have them in my strawberries. When I have like an organic mulch and the berries are laying on the ground, roly polies will come up and from the underside chew your strawberries. But I don't look at them. I've never treated for them or worried about them.
Yeah.
They're another name for them is wood lice or wood louse. So they're decomposers, right? They eat decaying stuff. So yeah, like Skip's saying, if you've got bark mulch or some kind of a, you know, that they will eat your mulch. That's kind of what they do. But if there's something sweet and soft like a strawberry, yeah, I could see them chewing on it. But I would not think they'd be going after like roots or stems or anything like that. I think there's probably something else. Maybe that sounds like grubs or something to
Yeah.
me, and maybe the population cycles follow each other. I don't really know, but I've always considered them to be pretty beneficial little guys and the little isopods in the landscape.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think people give me flack for this, but I mean, I think ants do a lot do some good in the garden with breaking down material and stuff like that. But the roly polies, I think maybe it's a misidentification or a they're caught at the scene of the crime, but they weren't actually doing the crime. Like they.
So correlation does not equal causation.
Absolutely.
Just to close that back, circle
he was
back
dead
up.
when I got there.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. One more question, if y'all don't mind. I have a ton of mushrooms I've got a ton of mushrooms I've never seen before after really adding compost religiously. Is this a good thing? Really weird looking. I'm guessing it's dog vomit mold, if I had to guess.
Is it like mushrooms, like a little umbrella, or what are they seeing?
They didn't send a picture. Yeah,
Okay.
let's see. Let's see. Someone said they saw an article that roly polies taste like shrimp. I don't know what that. Okay.
Shrimps is bugs.
Yeah, shrimps.
I've heard that, but I promise you, I'm going to die dumb.
How many views do you think I can get on TikTok if I eat a roly poly?
Probably a bunch, but probably a bunch of them are not ones you want.
Yeah. They said very skinny white mushrooms, the little skinny ones. So, I mean, it's a sign of decomposition in the soil when you got mushrooms.
Yes.
Yeah,
mushrooms are wonderful things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My number one rule, though, people ask this is one thing I consistently got calls on as a county agent is there's mushrooms in my yard and can I eat them? Yeah. And my rule was always don't eat the mushroom. Do not eat the mushroom. Like if you're not 100,000% sure what that mushroom is, don't eat the mushroom. Right. And most of the ones that come up in your garden are like false parasols or we call vomiter mushrooms, and we call them that for a reason. And there's some armillaria mushrooms and stuff that'll come up in decomposing like tree material. Just don't eat the mushroom. Just let it be. Let it do its thing.
That's good advice. I like to tell people that you can eat any mushroom. Some of them only once.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and like it's a sign of decomposition in the soil. You see like the dog vomit mold, and a lot of times in mulch and compost that's called compost, but it's actually just mulch. You see a lot. You see a lot of that. Compost that it's not broken down completely. That's where you start seeing
just little pieces.
Yeah. Well, and then I tell people, should you dig it up? You can, but you're going to spread spores. And really, I tell them just keep away from the base of the plant. If it's growing like getting close to your tomato, kind of keep it away from the base of your plant, and you should be okay for the most part. But it's just, yeah.
I tend to just let my mushrooms do whatever they want. I'm not going to say I'm not like scared of fungus, but like I'm not like it's smarter than it should be. And like I just let mushrooms do what they want. Wherever they want to grow, as long as it's not like in my house, they can do what they want.
Well, over here in East Texas, if it wasn't for fungi, we would be a mile deep in tree trunks right now. I mean, if that were botanically possible, but they do the heavy lifting of decomposing organic matter that is very tough to decompose.
Wow.
For bacteria and other things.
Did y'all get a lot of questions like in the AgriLife about dogs? Like my dog ate this. Like what can I plant that's safe around my? I get so many questions because I put like plumeria videos. I put up that what was that purple mountain laurel up, and they said, "Oh, I like them," but my people always when people comment that, I say you just need a smarter dog. That's what I was like. Get a smarter dog, because almost a lot of stuff is toxic. A lot of plants are toxic to dogs. But this person says I'm worried about the dogs with the mushrooms. Your dog will be fine probably. I don't know.
Yeah, mushrooms won't be on the. There's some good websites. The ASPCA, am I doing those letters right? They have some really good poisonous plant websites that are pretty extensive. But I've never, when it comes to mushrooms, I don't know what mushroom that is.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you look it up.
It's like snakes. Like I know what one or two snakes that are safe, but after that, I'm just not getting close to it.
For the most part, like I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Like evolutionarily, historically, dogs have spent a lot more time out around mushrooms than we have.
Yeah.
Like they've spent a lot of time out foraging and eating stuff and throwing it up and eating again.
Yes,
all the weird
yes,
stuff that
that's
dogs
it.
do. So like, they may eat one of those false parasols that would make you sick for 2 or 3 days, and they'll throw up once and be like, meh.
Yeah.
So I for the most part would not worry about it too much unless you see your dog acting differently or they're like consistently eating them and it's becoming a problem. Like, again, but I think checking like veterinary websites and things like that, I think there's probably some good resources out there.
And I think a lot of plant companies that are growing and selling plants are putting stuff on their labels now, like, hey, it's safe around kids, safe around dogs. When people ask about the dog, I say I don't let my dog out unless I'm with him. Like I wouldn't let my kid out like around all my plants unless I was with him. I wouldn't let my dog out. I grow a lot of very toxic plants. Tomatoes, super toxic. It can be pretty toxic if you eat them. So I mean, I wouldn't let my dog. I don't let my dog out by himself because he could get into all kinds of stuff. He almost ran through my greenhouse wall. So it's a big dog.
Big dog? You have a big dog?
He's a German Shepherd, 85 pounds. Yeah, he almost sprinted through my greenhouse door, so now he's not allowed in the greenhouse anymore.
And sometimes they're just like vibes only, like they're no thoughts, only vibes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, just be careful around your dog. And I've seen some plant stores that do have like this plant is safe around kids, this plant is safe around pets. Guys, I've had y'all for an hour and 15 minutes. I want to say thank you so much. Real quick, Vikram, let everybody know where they can find you and what you got coming up.
I am the Plant Prof, all the places. I wrote that book, Plants to the Rescue. What else do I do? I don't know. I'm trying to survive the second half of the semester. So spare a thought for the spring break to summer vacation, wasteland that is a college campus. Because we're as done as all my students are. Like, I promise you, I'm there too. Like, we're all ready for summer. Just grafting some apples in the next few weeks. I'll probably do some videos about that.
I definitely want to see the videos on the grafting.
Content about that. I've got 2 big red buds in my front yard. And I'm about to, before I go to bed tonight, because it's supposed to rain in the morning, I'm afraid it's going to knock a lot of the blooms off. I'm going to go harvest some and do some red bud flower simple syrup, which I've been wanting to do for a couple of years and didn't get it done last year. So as soon as I hang up and Bradley goes to bed, that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, Meriwether Forager was talking about that you can make a tea or whatever out of the red buds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it. Any chance I can get Vikram on, I always get Vikram on. Mr. Skip, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I always enjoy our encounters. Where can everybody find you, and tell us about your radio show and where they can watch?
Okay, thank you. It's good to be on. I appreciate that. This has been fun. I do GardenLine radio. It's on from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturday and again on Sunday. That's live. You can listen on KTRH 740 a.m. If you're outside the area, you can listen online, or you can get an app like the iHeartMedia app or some app, and you can listen to the show live also you can listen to podcasts, which means it's a past show. So either way you go about it, you can follow us on Facebook, and yeah, that's it. Right now I'm planting my yard, all those grasses that I was going to put out, and so I'm finding that me and ibuprofen can get a lot done.
I'm so happy for you, Skip. We met around the time that you were getting the garden line, and it's been a pleasure getting to meet you. I will put the links for your website because you have your lawn schedule as well.
Oh yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. Gardeningwithskip.com. Gardeningwithskip.com. That's it. It's a rudimentary site. We're working on it. It'll eventually have a lot more stuff, but right now it does have a few cool things.
Yeah, the schedule is what the most people are probably looking for, like what they need to do every month in the yard or what
Yes.
2
schedules. Yeah.
Good.
I was going to say there's 2. One is mow, water, fertilize. It's the cultural taking care of your grass. The other is pest, weeds, and diseases. It's all the things that come after it and what to do about them.
Awesome. I'm sure. And I know Vikram's going to be at. I spent my money. I'm investing my time. I already reserved my hotel for TNLA. Are you going to be at TNLA, Skip? Are you going to be? You are
this summer.
Yes, in August.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm planning.
Mandatory.
I'm going to try to do a live or a podcast from TNLA. So
okay,
we'll definitely try to get everybody on. So whenever we'll do it one evening or something like that, we'll do a live and try to get everybody on. So I've been trying to get Jay White back on. Jay White is probably this. Besides you, he's probably the busiest guy I know.
Oh, he's everywhere. he's like Roy Kent.
I don't know who Roy Kent is. Is he busy?
What's the show?
It's about Clark Kent from like Superman.
No, a Ted Lasso. It's a Ted Lasso.
Oh, okay.
You hear these theories everywhere. That's a clean version.
I've heard good things. Everybody that's to know at Texas Garden Guy, you can find me everywhere as Texas Garden Guy. We have our big spring meetup, rain or shine, Jorge's Hidden Gardens this Saturday. We're going to be there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll have a morning walkthrough at 9 and an afternoon walkthrough at 1. Rain or shine, I will be there. We're going to have fertilizer giveaways, plant giveaways, raffles. Taco truck's going to be there. So me and Jorge will be doing lives and videos throughout the day too. So make sure to come out. Jorge's Hidden Gardens in Alvin, Texas. There is a link to RSVP and all the info. It's totally free as well. Kids and dogs welcome. Thank y'all so much for coming on, guys.